Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Saṅgha. I trust you are feeling as well as you can be in this moment. And even if you're not feeling like that's true for you, I hope you find peace and relaxation here. Om Sahadna Bhavatu Sahadnao Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Karva Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine protect us both together. May the Divine nourish us both together. May our study be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. May there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Welcome, dear Usha Priyaji, and namaste, dear Sky Guardian. Hello, dear Alan and Christina. If there are any difficulties in your experience right now, do know that you are absolutely valid in how you are feeling in this moment. Welcome, dear Giuliano, and thank you for your likes on the live. Namaste, dear Anna. How are you, my friend? And dear Jacobo, hello. And Angel. Radhe Radhe, dear Magdalene. Hari Om. Good, shares Anna. I'm happy to hear that. I'd love to know what kind of feelings to hold space for in this live. And it is my wish to be your humble servant. As cheesy as that sounds, it's true. Any way in which I can share my experience with you and learn from yours would truly be an honor. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Magdalene. It might be your morning, could be your afternoon, evening, nighttime, whatever time it is for you. Regardless of the day you've had, it's possible to begin anew in this moment, at least for the rest of the day. You can always check in with yourself and go, is there any adjustments I can make? How do I want to feel for the rest of my day? Hello, dear Hannah. Thank you for the follow. Hello, Nikki. Dear Christina, you ask, is my hair soft? It depends what soft counts. It's not as soft as my cat's hair. My cat's hair are very soft. I could sleep on them if it didn't hurt them. One of the many reasons I want a big cat. You know, like a lion. I could sleep on a lion. The lion might eat me while I'm sleeping, but I'll know because it'll get up beneath me if it's my pillow. Hello, dear Ragnhildur. Hello, dear Diamond. You are from Tennessee. You're new here? Well, welcome. I hope you find yourself at home. I am from Canada and a province called BC, British Columbia. And thank you, dear Anya. I would make an amazing therapist. That's very kind of you. Yes, you may ask what my career is. My career is in, I don't know, being human. I don't have a formal occupation. I'm very graciously supported by generous people like yourself who voluntarily donate. It's never expected, nor is it necessary, but it does turn out to be enough to support buying my own food and toiletries and medicine and all that stuff, so. But it doesn't feel like an occupation, doesn't feel like a career. This is like a dream come true, having what I love to do in my free time also be something that supports me. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Ragnhildur. Dear Nitro, you ask, what's my sun sign? Well, I think in Western astrology, it's a Libra. In sidereal astrology, that is to account for the precession of the ecliptic, it is a Virgo. And it's also the equivalent of Virgo in Vedic astrology, which I'm forgetting the name for. I can look that up. Kanya or Nabhasya. So there, I've covered covered 3 different astrological systems. Pick one. You're very welcome, dear Diamond. Oh, Canada. Hello, dear Jill and Simon Aladdin, and thank you for your tiny. Yippee! Do I make maple syrup? I am unfortunately not that talented. I have to rely on fellow Canadians who are skilled in the craft. Good evening, dear Paige. I am well. Thank you. How are you? And thank you for sharing the live. I am employed by tiny tinies, exactly. They are my boss, collectively. And thank you for your rose, dear Kai. Radhe, Radhe. You wish you could just be without any outside stress, as you find the world very overwhelming, dear Anya. But in your hectic life, my lives bring you a moment of peace. Where you are not alone in feeling overwhelmed at times and stressed. And I hope to be able to share some tools to manage stress in all walks of life. You were curious about the other astrology type, dear Nitro. Well, there's many different systems of astrology. Many different cultures have co-evolved and shared ideas about the meanings of the stars, and as such there are several different systems coming from a variety of religions and traditions. There's a Western astrology, sidereal astrology, which takes into account the fact that since we have been looking at the stars have changed over thousands of years. Stars have moved, but also our Earth's tilt has changed a little bit. And so what constellations lie on the equatorial plane is different. The timings are a little different. So some astrological systems account for that, like sidereal astrology and Vedic astrology, which is the oldest form. I am not that knowledgeable about the specifics of any astrology, but I do know that there are many kinds, such as those ones. I'm sure there's even a version that comes from Kabbalah, I would imagine, from the mystic tradition of Judaism. But I wouldn't know the name of it, unless it's something like Kabbalistic astrology. But that's just a guess. Hello, dear Coney. Namaskaram, the only S. Oh yes, there are more than just 3 astrological systems. You're a happy Cappy, shares Roxy. I am happy to hear that. Count me in. Or does Cappy, on the subject of astrology, are you referring to a Capricorn? Then I guess I'm not a happy Cappy. Unless you count some other celestial body besides just your star sign, your sun sign. Thank you, Dub Darker, for your heart me. Hariom Tatsat, a new reality. Thank you for your Rosa too. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. Thank you, Carolyn. I'm very smart. I must have done well in high school. The things I wanted to do well in. Some subjects I just refused to participate in. This is true. And funny enough, some of my favorite subjects were the ones I did the worst in. Probably because I felt like the way the teacher I had expressed such a close interest in my heart was different to how I would want the class to be taught. And so I was always mischievous, purposefully answering questions wrong because I refused to participate in the curriculum. Hello, dear Mo. And Christina, you love that we have access to all of those choices. What a buffet of knowledge. I like the way you put that. A buffet of knowledge. That's nice. I'll have to remember that. And thank you, dear Doom Knight, for you sharing the live. You were deep in fight or flight as a teen, shares Christina. Oh, I think we all were at various degrees. Puberty and discovering our place in social landscape is definitely a time of fighting and fleeing. For most people. Hello, dear Mooney. I am doing well, thank you. How are you? We will be reading from another section of Moksha in just a second, as the bulk of our Shravana portion of Saṅgha dedicated to listening. You are surviving with a sparkle emoji, shares Mooney. That you are. As long as your use of emojis are intact. I know there's a very beautiful part of you still alive and well. And your book is coming tomorrow, dear Paige. That's awesome. Oh, Sky Guardian G, you mischief. Not the one we're doing tonight, though. I see. Good evening, dear Zenkra. And thank you, Lily Barft, for your likes on the live. Let's see where we left off in our book. We were in the middle of the 7th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Or the 8th? Let me double check. Middle of the 7th. I'll catch you up to speed. In a woman's journey to self-discovery and freedom from suffering, middle of the 7th chapter, our protagonist just had her 3rd lesson from her guru, Siddh, who was secretly an incarnation of divine consciousness, Shiva. They were learning the secrets of immortality from an ancient tradition known as Advaita Vedanta. I have tickets to a concert tonight, I said, taking a friendly, familiar tone. A fundraiser for last year's flood victims. Part of my job, networking. Would you like to join me? Jatayu can take us. I can't, he said. A swarm of screaming school children, the ones we had seen earlier, descended on us, separating us. The children surrounded him, clamoring for attention. Why do you teach me? I shouted. Because you asked me, he shouted back, shrugged, smiled, and waved goodbye. Back in my room, I reviewed that famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita that I had once painstakingly analyzed with my Sanskrit teacher, Miss Nandi. the verse that starts with Karmanyevadhikaraste, etc., which translates to, your right is for action alone, never to its fruits at any time. Never should the fruits of action be your motive. Never let there be attachment to inaction in you. We can break down the Sanskrit karmani, which means in action, in deeds. The neuter, locative singular. Adhikaras, prerogative, masculine, nominative, singular. Te means thy, genitive, singular. Karma phala hetus, motive in fruit of action, a tatparusha compound. Bhus, it should be, an aorist injunctive, and ma, not, never, prohibitive. I was proud of my grasp of the grammar, but frustrated by my lack of understanding and possible misunderstanding of the teaching itself. The concert that evening was held on the outskirts of the town. A portion of an unplowed field had been cordoned off by an arrangement of bamboo posts strung with twinkling colored lights and partially roofed over with canvas sheets that fluttered in the breeze. At one end was a stage with a purple velvet curtain drawn close. At my insistence, Jatayu had made it there exactly on time, as stated in the invitation. But no one else had bothered, and I sat alone for the better part of an hour. Gradually, NGO representatives and government officials straggled in and filled the seats around me, the VIP section. At the rear, rowdy young men gathered in clumps, openly swilling beer and whistling at any woman who passed by. I had placed my handbag on the seat next to me and scanned the crowd in hope that Sid had changed his mind and would come. Instead, there was Hari, making his way down the aisle toward me, and salaaming to the crowd like some minor potentate or potentate. No one took notice. I moved my bag. Harry, he said. We met the other day. Hari, I corrected. I met your wife, Padma. She gave me tickets. He grinned, took the seat I had reserved for Sid, and was about to respond when the purple curtain was tugged aside by two boys pulling hard on ropes and pulleys that shuddered and creaked. A deity smothered almost entirely in a pile of marigolds and jasmine, with two protuberant red eyeballs peering out, took up one side of the stage. Opposite were two musicians tuning their instruments, a tabla and a sitar. A bare-chested priest with the usual ash markings bustled in, muttered a few prayers, threw some flowers at the deity, and left. After a brief interval, a very fat man in a tight Nehru jacket lumbered in and proceeded to read from a torn piece of paper. But the static of the microphone and the boos and catcalls from the rear made him unintelligible. He held fast, even taking on a call of his cell phone midstream, completed his speech, carefully folded the piece of paper, and made a dignified retreat. Immediately following was an elderly, heavily made-up woman. Rouged cheeks, red lipstick, and thick mascara, who was listed in the program as Doyenne. I don't know how to pronounce this word. Doyenne of Hindustani classical music. Clearly very important. She looked around in confusion, spotted the musicians, smiled with a toothy smile, lowered herself to the floor, and launched into a lengthy warbling, which was also met with boisterous mocking from the young men at the rear. Hari sat back relaxed, slapped his thigh, keeping some sort of time to the barely audible singing. Next were a pair of jugglers, who skillfully lobbed numerous objects in the air and as a finale somersaulted into the wings to a huge applause. The curtain closed, and after a few ominous minutes was squeakily drawn back to reveal a pitch-dark stage. A blue spotlight darted crazily, trying to find its mark. "Come on, man, play," Hari said in a loud whisper. The spotlight jerked up and down and landed on a tall, thin man hovering in the far corner, a flute to the lips and a gold cardboard crown with a peacock feather on a head of a black cloth of curls. A yardage of ochre silk was gathered and tied between his crossed legs. His bare, scrawny chest, now eerily bathed in a blue light, was garlanded with gold cardboard necklaces. His heavily kohled eyes rolled around, straining to find the musicians who sat shrouded in darkness. A flute player must have come on board, for suddenly a lilting melody issued from the sidelines and overhead lights flooded the stage. The man sprang into action and executed a number of vigorous movements while rushing back and forth, all the while mimicking his playing of the flute. He finally came to rest. 3 loud knocks were struck on the tabla, and a string of young girls draped in colorful silks, anklet bells tinkling, skipped in. They danced around the man, chasing him, trying to capture him, but he eluded them. The blue god and his gopis. The sitar and tabla picked up the beat, the flute just ahead of them, as the girls wove in and out in dizzying patterns. Suddenly, it was Pepe, my associate I was separated from. I saw, as the blue god, Pepe playing the flute with his girls, the ones that he had taken care of who were abused and discarded. His gopis, rushing him, making circles, slowing down, then starting up again, and finally capturing him. My eyes filled with tears. "I promise you, Pepe," I whispered, "you will play the flute and your gopis will dance. I will bring them back to you." Hari handed me a handkerchief. I blew my nose noisily. "I must go," I said. Yes, you go." That's the end of the 7th chapter. But in between chapters is another layer to the story, for our dear protagonist is not just an American woman, but secretly the divine mother of the universe, who has forgotten her true self. In fact, there are many divine incarnations in our story, playing the role of humans, but secretly divine. Here is the layer of the story from the perspective of the divine. Far south of the city of Rishikesh, at the refugee camp across the road from the convent of the Sisters of the Poor, which our protagonist and her associate worked at, Harry and Pepe, as they called themselves in this yuga, this age, lounged at a coconut vendor's stall. Pepe, aka Sri Krishna, was sprawled on a pile of husks that the coconut vendor had fashioned as seating for his customers. For Harry, Lord Vishnu, clearly an important personage in his dapper suit and silk shirt, a folding metal chair and a small table were produced. The coconut vendor expertly dehusked 2 coconuts, sliced open the top of each, and poured limpid coconut water into 2 tall glasses. Then he carved out the soft, translucent pulp into 2 bowls made out of yellowed banana tree leaves and placed a plastic spoon in each. "What a name you chose for me," Pepe grumbled as he swallowed the cooling coconut pulp. "You chose it yourself. You and I are one," Harry pointed out with irritating logic. "I'll be glad to make my exit," Pepe said, now that he has finally made an appearance. Being her caretaker has not been easy. To see her suffer. Pepe slurped down the coconut pulp and rose. "I have to go. The girls are expecting their ice cream." When Pepe was about to cross the road to the convent, he stopped, turned. "Has Ganesha come yet?" he asked. "Not yet," Harry said. Both knew that nothing could begin without the auspicious one. Alright, that ends our reading for now. So thank you for listening. I look forward to continuing this wonderful divine adventure with you as we pick up the book again next time. Namaste. And this concludes our Shravana section, listening section. Now we can transition to Manana. And my attention is all on you, and we can discuss whatever is in our hearts and minds. So let me switch scenes here. There. And thank you everyone who sent a gift while we were reading. Thank you for your patience. And welcome everyone who did join while we were reading. Good night, dear Mooney. Thank you, dear Bob, for the heart me that you had sent. Om Shri Mahalakshmiyai Namaha. Hello, Blue Lily. The only S you share. I need some sound effects for these transitions. We got them. Yeah. Those were the sound effects. Dear Usha Priyaji, thank you for your loving painting. You're tiny, tiny. A trio of them, in fact. Yippee! And a heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Namaste, dear Jay. Dear Melinda, thank you for your subscription. Om Dham Namaschandraya. I continue to look forward to having you here. And Tattvamasi, thank you for your quintet of roses. Jaya Ramana Maharshi. Dear Alice, you ask, how can we set boundaries with those who maintain less power than us without being overbearing? What a very kind question. For those who have less power than us, maybe depend on us for some things, we can try to explain with clear reasoning why setting boundaries helps the relationship. For example, maybe, this is just off the top of my head, but you can adapt it to your situation. Maybe you are a math tutor for a young child, but this young child is always telling you about how much they hate mathematics, for example. I don't know. You can say that, I appreciate that you feel that you can express your your feelings with me. You're absolutely valid for feeling that way. And I can't make you love mathematics, but in order for you to do well in your class, I need from you to take as big of an interest as you can with me. And maybe you can tell me what things that work, what parts that you've tried, and I can fill in the blanks for you. But we can't spend the whole time arguing about why you have to do this, because it's not going to change the fact that you will have this class. And that is why, I would like for us to pay more attention to what I'm here to help you with, for instance. Something like that. It's all about affirming the role that you have with them. Because it is not your duty to always be a sounding board for all the negativity in their life, for example. Because in order to do your job well, there has to be some boundaries as to what the content of your interaction should contain. So rather than making it seem like a punishment, like you're taking away from some part of their relationship with you, frame it from the point of affirming your role for them, so that you can have a much more healthy relationship in another way. Thank you, dear Anna, for the heart me you had sent. Om Kring Kali Kaye Namaha. You're very welcome, dear Alice. I hope that is helpful. Or I hope that makes sense. And thank you, Lily Barfed, for your 6 roses. Your name never fails to make me giggle. Om Kamalir Mahakali Kaye Namaha. And dear Isabella, thank you for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! And Harsi, thank you for your heart me too. Om Dum Dargaye Namaha. I like the way you put that, Crystal. Staying true to your values establishes the boundary and the intention. That's great. Welcome, dear Nicole. And thank you for your heart me and pair of team bracelets too. Jai Sitaram. And grateful human, thank you for your tiny too. That's the jazz tiny. Jazzy tiny. Nicole, you asked, how can you overcome addiction? You are struggling with a substance that is very easy for you to access. I see. Well, it should go without saying then that if you can't limit your access, which would probably be one of the first things that you do, then we do explore valuing the other things that you have access to more. Sometimes we are going to be in situations where these things are going to be around us. For example, you can't exactly move to a society that doesn't have a source of coffee or caffeine. It has become such a widespread substance that you'd really have to move to a cave if you never want to be around a place that serves coffee or some form of caffeinated beverage. whatever the addiction is, ask yourself, what is that addiction masking? What part of my story is something that I'm choosing to relieve myself from through this addiction? And you don't have to answer that out loud, but in your own mind, reflect on exactly what this does for you. And then ask, are there other things in my environment that I can get that from in a more healthy way? And in a more healthy way, that means long-term happiness rather than short-term relief. Can I find the bravery, the courage to go through temporary discomfort in order to seek long-term relief? That's the trade-off. When we are using a substance, it gives us temporary relief for a problem that requires temporary discomfort. And so we're masking the temporary discomfort with temporary relief. And then we're sacrificing our long-term relief through things like therapy, through healthy relationships, through healthy routines and structure in your life, like a good sleep schedule, exercise, taking care of your nutrition. Fall into these healthier habits, and over a span of days to weeks to months to years, then the rest of your life becomes much, much easier. That's what's hard. You make it easy on yourself now, then you make it hard on yourself later. So if you allow yourself to go through the difficulty of processing your experiences now, then you make the rest of your life easy. Oh, you're very welcome, dear Nicole. I know what it's like to feel dependent on a substance for relief or joy. And it is possible. Anything that you can that you can get yourself addicted to is also something that you can get yourself free from. Everything that has a beginning also has an end. If it can be done, it can be undone. Sometimes the undoing requires more energy, more effort than the doing. And thank you, dear Hia Della Luna, for your 30 roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Wow. That's very powerful, dear Rob. As someone who spent $250,000 on rehab, you just have to want it. Dear Vena, you ask, do I have a video dedicated to the evolution of religion? You are interested. I think I touch on some of the ways that religion has changed over time in past videos. I'm not sure if I have a video dedicated to that concept primarily, but thank you for the idea. We could certainly talk about various subjects related to that here if you do want. Yeah, that is a beautiful point, Isabella. Tobacco is very sacred in your culture. makes you not feel alone sometimes. A lot of the substances we use ultimately come from nature. They are medicines in many ways. But the thing about sacred medicine is we have to respect it. We have to respect the spirit of the medicine and not abuse it or use it for recreation, but for the purpose of healing. Much love, dear Nicole. You are believed in. Thank you, Usonir. Thank you, Nicole, for your team bracelet and cheers and a rose. That's very kind of you. Om Ram Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Dear Broken Glasses, hello. Why did I private my math videos? It's a good question. And I'm very enamored that you and many other people ask about those videos. It's really inspiring to know that they touched so many people, and I'm always going to be grateful for that. At the same time, the way in which I want to present myself on the internet has changed. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the videos, but it's all about my intention. And as a way for me to take accountability, my intention was not very pure with those videos. Even though I can certainly enjoy the content with you, my intention was to provoke people. To say, hey, you're thinking about this wrong, and you should be thinking about this. To give someone something to think about. Now that I've grown and gotten a little older, I realize that's not what I want to do with my voice. I feel like the gift of my voice is not to provoke people's minds, but to calm their hearts. And I'm willing to sacrifice the trajectory I was going with those videos for a new trajectory into something that I feel like the world needs a little more. I am all for making math education more interesting and shaping the way people think about math, but I don't want to limit myself to that scope, as I feel like there are even more important things in this world that I feel compelled to serve. And I hope that explains a little bit about my journey in shifting gears. And if you want to hear more about that journey, you're welcome to check out the Frequently Asked Questions page, which is linked in the link tree in my bio. I haven't touched on some of the anxiety and depression I was experiencing during the time I was making those videos. And I go a little more into detail there. Dear Karen, you share, you're so emotional, sensitive, feeling everything so deeply. Don't know how to temper this. You're not alone in that. There are many people feeling so deep, and I think it's so beautiful that you do feel so so incredibly deep. I think that's real and authentic and raw, so human. And I believe that's our natural state, to be so incredibly sensitive. If you look at fellow animals who aren't living in a society like the one we have, they are incredibly sensitive to everything, to changes in atmospheric pressure. Fish change their behavior, so do various other animals. I learned that from my grandfather when we fished together. He would always bring a barometer to measure atmospheric pressure because it would affect the way he fished. I thought that was very profound. I wonder if humans do that too. If we just don't realize that something like the pressure in the air can change our behavior. Animals are deeply sensitive to smell, to sound, to sight. If you just rearrange your room even a little bit, your pets will check out even an inch change in the furniture. And similar traits are found in the neurodivergent of our humanity. So I think it's something deeply natural that somehow or another we repress or mask in the masses. And yeah, if I was as sensitive as a fellow animal living in this society, I'd be 100% overwhelmed all of the time. The good news, I think, is that there are ways of being as sensitive as you are without getting overwhelmed by all of the experiences. You can be aware of all these things, but yet not feel threatened by them. And that comes when we let go of trying to keep track of everything. We just kind of allow ourselves to surrender to the myriad of experiences. We turn off the judge in our mind that's trying to label this and that as a good experience or a scary one, or whether we're in danger. Or we just kind of get lost in the symphony of life. We don't have to try to cognize absolutely everything we're sensitive to. We don't have to be on guard for every sound, every sensation. Just be and know that you are something which contains all of those sensations, and therefore your true nature is untouched. And thank you, dear John Simon, for your heart me and GG. Om Gham Jahnavyai Namaha. And dear Liz, thank you for your rosa too. Radhe Radhe. Welcome, dear Will. Dear child. I think your name is a little mischievous, but you had asked, why did I get into this entire genre of knowledge? Because some knowledge comes and goes, but other knowledge can transcend birth and death. It is the kind of knowledge that will surely not go with the body as it leaves me that I aspire to most. We can learn everything there is to know about microbiology, about the nature of the stars, of mathematics, of physiology, and these are absolutely wonderful sources of information that help us understand the world. But worldly knowledge also goes when the body goes too. You don't take your PhD into your afterlife. If you had to acquire it from an external source, then you'll have to leave it, because we come into this world with nothing. We leave without it too. But some truths cannot be separated from us. We can only forget or remember them, such as the truth of your nature, because whatever you are in essence, that cannot be separated from whatever you are in essence. They are one, equal, the same. Knowledge like you are Satchitananda, the source of truth, the source of consciousness, the source of bliss. That being your essential nature, coming into knowledge of that will stand the test of time and serve you in this life and whatever awaits after. Hello, dear Mermander. Thank you for popping by. Dear child, you were wondering, what is my religion? If you're wondering what I believe in you. I could say I believe in the divine by this name, that, or the other. But whatever we call the source of our existence, it is something within you, something within me, something within all the trees, the ocean, the sun, the moon. So when it comes to practically applying that belief, it means to put faith in the potential that exists within us and all around, and that, for me, especially includes you. Did I thank you, Liz, for this rose, a rosa? Do forgive me for not remembering. I'll thank you twice, just in case. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Thank you for listening, dear Karen, and for sharing your vulnerability. Aw. Dear Blue Lily, you ask for any thoughts on parasocial relationships and how best to handle and go about them. This is something that I naturally think about, having, so many people here in this space. I have to make sure that you know that I have love generally for every human being, including yourself, but without having expectations put on that or assumptions about what that means for each other. Ultimately, I know personally I can't be everyone's best friend, but I try to be as open as I can to everyone. For those that don't know, a parasocial relationship is really a relationship that goes one way, but one person believes that it goes both ways. Like when you look up to Justin Bieber and you feel like you have an intimate and personal relationship with Justin Bieber, and that even just being on the same planet, you feel like he knows who you are, and all of his songs are written about you. Maybe that would be an extreme version of it. I think the reason that is very common is, one, we have an absence of spiritual teachers in our society, and so in absence we look up to the next best thing, which is people who are making music and art which are which is a spiritual thing ultimately, to express yourself deeply through the form of song and dance and color and light and all that stuff. That's an expression of spirit, even if it gets commodified ultimately. As such, I think a lot of celebrities take the position that elders did in the past, in like indigenous societies still today, communities still today. Who do you look up to? Well, it's all the elders, the ones who have experience and wisdom. Always thinking about them as they are expressing the deepest parts of your existence, being one with it. So I think many people look up to various celebrities parasocially because they feel their own self being expressed through their art, through their craft, through their performance. It feels very connected, feels very intimate like that. But you must understand that it is not that this other person is doing this for you and no other person. That these people do these things, one, for the sake of expressing the very same self in them as is deeply within everyone. The same vulnerable, wounded self that goes through heartbreak and heartache and love and triumph and failure and desire and fear and all of the things we all feel to some degree. And for the sake of everyone and not anyone in particular. So the connection you feel doesn't have to be personal in the sense of intimate or romantic, but just spiritual. And at the level of the person, at the level of the body and mind, you might never meet each other. You might have no idea who each other are. The connection is at a more universal level that is inclusive to everyone and not exclusive to anyone. I think just understanding that can be enough to know where the connection actually is. And thank you for sharing the live, dear Jill and Simon Aladdin. And hello, dear Maya. Dear Blue Lily, you ask, do I think divine relationship, like one with one's God, is parasocial? Or would we call it something else? No, I wouldn't call that parasocial. That is very different. Because parasocial means that the other being doesn't think of you in the same way, at least. Like as we said in the case of Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber probably does not even know who you are. I don't know, maybe one of you here has a connection with Justin Bieber, but for the vast majority, Justin Bieber doesn't know your name, wouldn't recognize your face, etc. But God by definition is the one that knows all names. The one you can see in all faces. The witness of all, like Santa. In fact, God has a parasocial relationship with us, if anything. Because we're the ones that don't regard God in the same way that God regards us. The source of love and infinite potential is rooting for us at all times, constantly having us in their awareness. We're the ones who doesn't return that, if anything. Thank you, dear Mari, for your heart me and pair finger hearts. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. There's the only yes. You ask, can you be a guest on the live? Possibly. If not, you understand. Well, thank you for understanding. At this time, I feel like I would prefer to keep it just the way it is going at the moment. But you'll know that whenever I say that I would love to have people, share their voice, then you're welcome to come up just as everyone else is. And I'll let you know when that time is. Now, I understand the perspective that you're coming from, dear Echo, and I know you have a history with religious oppression in your family, and I get that. But you are talking about the Bible. I haven't mentioned the Bible. I haven't mentioned the God of any religion in particular. I am talking about the universal consciousness that includes you and includes I, and is not exclusive to anyone in particular. I also recognize that you come from a Buddhist background, and Buddhists are wonderfully non-theistic. And non-theistic means that they don't provide an answer for others on the nature of the divine. If Buddhism is something that resonates with you, then I would love to see you be a great example of a Buddhist that chooses to believe in a form of the divine or not, and leaves everything else for others, just as I would like to uphold here in the Saṅgha for everyone, that I may speak of the divine, but whether or not that concept resonates with you, and how you choose to view that is always up to you, and I will never impose that concept on anyone, because that's a personal matter. And thank you, dear Mari, for your heart me and pair finger hearts. Om Mani Padme Hum. And dear Born by Lightning, thank you for your trio. Hare Krishna. And dear Rahina, thank you for your heart me too. Jai Sitaram. Dear Mimi Ceramics, you ask, do I ever get angry? I am extremely calm. I have gotten angry many times in my life, but almost every time I've ever been angry, with a few exceptions, I realized it wasn't my place in that moment, or being calm probably would have been a better alternative. A lot of the time, situations that involve getting angry are just situations where you want to speak up for yourself, stand your ground, say it as it is, without misinterpretation. Anger can be an effective way of doing it, but it has risk. But being calm can sometimes be louder in a metaphorical sense. That the presence of your calmness can speak volumes. So there have been instances in my life where I've gotten angry, and then I realized at a later time that in these situations, being calm might have had an even more powerful effect. And so I try to remember that. But there have been times where I'm very grateful that I did get angry. In the case of abuse, I think there are times which being calm is not enough, unfortunately. But I do want to clarify. I do want to emphasize that it's a last resort. It's the final tool you should pick up if every other tool. Mechanics know that you have that one wrench in your shop that you use when no other wrench will work. When there's a bolt so dang tight that no other wrench is going to do the trick. And so you look at your fellow mechanics and you nod, it's time to bring out the nutcracker. And it's some ridiculous wrench with a welded iron rod on it that gives you like a yard's worth of leverage. And you bring that out last when every other tool doesn't work. That is like anger. But make sure that you have other tools in your toolkit. Exactly, Greg RG. Bolt too tight, add a pipe on the end to increase torque. I must be the cutest angry person ever, shares Rahina. Well, thank you. I think. And dear Blue Lily, you ask for any thoughts on Kundalini yoga. You hear it's divisive in the yogi community. Indeed, many yogis will shy away from the subject. And I think it's a lack of precise vocabulary, because you really need some precise vocabulary. That precision to explore such a nuanced topic, it requires a lot of time and a lot of detail. For a yogi answering a question from someone who is only going to have 5 minutes of their time, there's just no way to explain Kundalini without the risk of misinterpretation being too high, for example. So in most cases, I think a teacher will probably shy away from that subject unless you have a lot of time to sort out the nuance, because it is a highly nuanced subject. And there are many things like that. Like the role that sexuality plays in spirituality. There are ways in which sexuality becomes very spiritual, but to explain that without dismissing the possibility for people to accidentally traumatize themselves by being taken advantage of, or that sort of thing, requires a lot more than 5 minutes of time. It's very difficult to sort out the nuances without a lot of care and attention. Kundalini is one of those subjects. But I really like the answer that Ram Das's guru gave when Westerners would ask him about the nature of Kundalini and opening chakras and all that jazz. He would simply say, feed people, serve people, love people. And on the surface, it sounds like he's changing the subject, like, you worry about this stuff first. But actually, he's giving the ultimate answer. Because you can contort your body this way and that, tie yourself in a pretzel and swing like a bat upside down. You can force your energies in a certain way. But it's entirely unnecessary when there is already a natural system at work that unfolds gradually through the process of service and love and nurturing. All of those things are your Shakti, power of the divine feminine, and so much of that power gets repressed, and it is exactly that power that we call as Kundalini. The power to be a mother when no other person is stepping up to take on that role, not just for your children, but the children of the universe. Thank you, dear feline, for your quartet of roses and finger heart. Om Ram Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. And dear Arthur, thank you for the fast verse that you had sent too. Ram Ram. That's right, dear Larissa. Anger is a valid emotion. What's important is how we react, process, and release it. Blue Lily, you ask, where is my dialect from? I was born and raised up in Calgary, Alberta, which is a part of Canada. And then I moved to the island on the west coast, Vancouver Island. I think people speak really uniquely where I live, and not as a whole, but from each other. Where I live, everyone almost finds their own way of living. It's a very unique, as I said, place. Because the culture on Vancouver Island, where I live, where I am right now, is that the culture is that everyone finds their own way of expressing themselves. So there isn't a stereotype other than the fact that everyone is kind of unique, that there's oddballs, and I'm certainly an oddball. I'm also very neurodivergent, and unfortunately there is a lot of stigma surrounding the way that neurodivergent people express themselves. Some people say that autistic individuals might speak like robots from time to time, or they might unconsciously pick up the intonation of some people around them, or TV show characters or things like that. And so there's almost an accent that comes with being the specific flavor of neurospicy that I am. Just like how there are various ways of being that naturally change the way that you express yourself. Like if you are a homosexual, in the United States, there's almost a natural kind of cadence that separates you or makes you distinct and unique in your voice from other people, which doesn't come from your ethnicity per se, but just the way that you conduct yourself and associate with fellow people in the LGBTQ, for example. So I hope some of those factors perhaps give you insight into my diction. Thank you for your subscription, dear Nicole. I appreciate your presence here, and I look forward to being able to serve you in any way that I can. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Dear Jeffrey, thank you for your heart to me as well. Radhe Radhe. Thank you for your follow herbalistic advice. Dear Rahina, you share, if I ever was angry at you, your heart would melt. You would giggle and honor and consider my words. Oh, that is a lovely sentiment. Thank you. I can't imagine myself ever angry at you, though. You are too sweet to get angry at. Like my kitties, Sandy and Shadow. Even if they're ruffians, throwing things off of countertops or pushing them off and having them smash and terrorizing the house in the middle of the night, I just look into their beady eyes and go, "You're just the cutest. I can never be angry at you." Thank you, dear Isabella, for your trio of roses too. Hare Krishna. Hello, TDQ. Welcome. We vibing. Dear Riri, hello Riri. How are you doing, by the way? You used to get very angry, you shared. It is a basic emotion. In the original movie from Inside Out, one of the main cast, anger, along with joy and sadness, fear, and disgust. As we get older, we start learning even more finer emotions. Our space of feeling becomes more diverse. Thank you, dear spiritual vibes, for your heart me. Hare Krishna. You miss Ivy very much at this moment, dear Riri, but you need to not lose your mind. Or that might be the best thing for you. I remember hearing that joke that in the West, losing your mind is a bad thing. But in India, people spend lifetimes trying to lose that bugger. But no matter how hard they try, it always catches up. You'd like to lose your mind, shares Heidi. I don't blame you. The mind is just one dimension of life. It's one of the 4 inner dimensions called the Antahkaranas. As long as we don't get stuck in any dimension of life, then there is nothing wrong with having a mind, having a body, having any part of our instrument of experience. Thank you for your heart, me, dear Gabriella. Jai Sitaram. Hello, the Jared Show. How's Yam today? Hopefully very yammy. I am feeling yammy. And Blue Lily, you wonder how old I am? In this body, 23. You would like me to explain dear Greco and dear Pretzoni, you would like me to explain also? About losing the mind? Is that what the context was when you asked that question, or is it something else? You'll have to tell me. I'd be happy to clarify anything. Yes? Well, the joke is, it is a way of saying that you've gone crazy in English as a phrase, a figure of speech, to lose your mind. Because in the West we value reasoning and rationality, and we associate those things with the mind. As such, to lose your mind is to lose your ability to reason, to rationalize. But in the East, such as in classical Indian philosophy, the mind and your faculty of reasoning are two completely different things, which is interesting. That's the question of the day. I'm trying to open my blackboard. We'll do the question of the day in just a minute. You might be interested to know how Eastern philosophy divides our inner world. No wonder my drawing tablet isn't working. I think if it was plugged in, that might help. So typically, we just call what's going on inside the mind, and we associate the mind with the faculty of thinking, we associate it with feeling emotions, we associate it with discerning between decisions, we associate it with memories, we associate it with imagination. There's a lot of different faculties a part of the mind. But for example, in classical Indian philosophy, it is just one part, and the words that translate to mind just refer to the thoughts. And then beyond the mind, deeper than the mind, is the intellect. And so the intellect is realized as something separate. That is your decisions. In other words, you make decisions beyond thought, which is very helpful if your mind is full of negative thoughts and no thought seems like a good decision. To know that there's something higher than the chaos of your mind at that moment that is capable of making decisions. And deeper than that is your sense of self. Which is your identity. And then deeper than that is your faculty of memory. But memory in this case is actually samskaras, impressions. I'm not sure what a good word to translate that would be. Not just impressions, but deep impressions. We'll just throw an adjective on there. Your faculty of deep impressions that go even beyond your identity. And that is inclusive of your memory. So, not all of these things are considered, for example, as negative as the mind traditionally is. So in Eastern philosophy, in classical Indian philosophy especially, to go beyond the mind means to travel into more and more inner faculties. So it's a good thing to lose the mind in the sense that you're not just living exclusively at this level, at the level of thought, but at deeper and deeper levels. Whereas, as we were saying, in English, the saying, lose your mind, is a bad thing because that includes your intellect, and you wouldn't want to lose that. And indeed, you wouldn't. And thank you, dear Ursula, for your heart me. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. You're learning so much about me, dear Blue Lily. Learning so much about me or my body. Yes, mind, body, spirit, soul. You could all consider those as different dimensions, dear Eugene. It's traditionally said that in a human body there are 14 different dimensions to explore. There is the dimension... 19 different dimensions to explore. 5 dimensions of the elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. 5 dimensions of perception: sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. 5 dimensions of activity, which includes speech. It includes the alteration we're capable of with our hands. It includes the ability to release substances from our bodies that we're no longer using. It includes our ability to travel across the world and I am forgetting what the 5th karmendriya is. Anyway, and 4 inner dimensions of mind, as we said: manas, buddhi, intellect, ahankara, sense of self, and chitta, the inner reflection, which includes all of our samskaras, our impressions. It's going to drive me crazy what the 5th karmendriya is. I just made a video on them. Oh, that's right. How could I forget? A dimension of procreation. Our sexuality, of course. There's some wonderful questions asked in the last few minutes. Thank you for your patience. Dear Iwike Tordos, you ask, do I believe in lucid dreaming? Can I speak about lucid dreaming? Absolutely. Yeah, you've been having constant lucid dreams. I'm happy to hear that for you. Now the tricky thing is, you can be aware of your existence while dreaming. But can you be an effective lucid waker? Can you keep in your awareness the truth of your existence while awake? That you are conscious, that you exist? Do your thoughts through the day affect your dreams? Asks Iwike Tortles. Absolutely. Yes. The subconscious, which is the space of experience during dream, is shaped by the thoughts during the day. So if you have a particularly negative mind, unfortunately that can lead to a particularly negative subconscious and breed all sorts of fears and desires. Fortunately, if you have a lot of trauma that has sunk to the level of your subconscious, the opposite of that heals it. Continuing to think positive thoughts every day seeds your subconscious with good things and bravery and love and courage and patience. Dear Riri, switching topics a little bit, you ask what I think about string/M theory. I wouldn't know the mathematics behind it, but the general idea of everything being made of vibration is something that I can absolutely get behind. Something that we even find in ancient scriptures that describe the whole universe as vibration too. Nothing could exist without vibration, without change. All of our senses rely on vibration. The vibration of electromagnetic waves producing light, the vibration of sound, or the vibration of air producing sound, the vibration of, the molecules themselves producing heat and touch, the vibration of chemicals and their interaction with various receptors in your nose and tongue, producing the experiences of scent and taste. Without something going through change, how can there be an experience? Welcome, dear Katie. The topic is rapidly changing and free-flowing. Dear Illis Philosophy, thank you for the manifesting you had sent. That is very kind of you. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Have I ever read German philosophy? You also had asked. I haven't read any philosophy. I just like to think. And listen from people who have thought about these things too. Thank you for sharing the live, Nuko. I like the way you put that, Lando. A lot of the features of our dreams seem to be the thoughts that fell through the cracks of our mind filter. Those 19 dimensions made you think of it because it has 11, you think, dear Riri. Yes, we are using the term dimension in a little different way in reference to string theory, or these various tattvas is the word in Sanskrit that make up a human being. In string theory, the dimensions are spatial and temporal. Many of them very small, wound up at the quantum level. But there are many kinds of dimensions, not just spatial or temporal. Our eyes have 2 spatial dimensions. How much an image is left or right or above or below, these 2 axes. But color comes in 3 chromatic dimensions, 3 different color cones in our eyes, responding to red, cyan as 1 dimension, the green and magenta dimension, and the blue and yellow dimension of color. That is why when you want a rainbow of lights, you buy RGB lights. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. And when you want to print full color on your printer, you use magenta, cyan, and yellow. These are the additive and subtractive primary colors, respectively. But in either case, whatever the color space, RGB or CMY, we have 3 chromatic dimensions of color. So our eyes see in 5 dimensions, 2 spatial ones and 3 chromatic ones. Or you could say 5.5, because we have a simulated dimension of depth too. Dear Grey Cole, you ask, how do you appreciate everything, but not allow yourself to accept less than what you want, or what you affirmate? That is a great question, dear Grey Cole. Very sensible. Because you accept the fact that you're capable of change too. It's funny, we often forget to apply the concept of acceptance universally. Acceptance doesn't just mean for what has come to be, but for that which can come from what is now. You accept the fact that you are growing, learning, changing. Wayne, you ask, what's the secret to sleep? Well, the secret is to shut your mind off. Well, that's a bit of a figure of speech, I realize as I'm saying, because you can't truly shut the mind off per se, but you can redirect your attention from it. One of the things that helps me sleep we use the word sleep in a way that can sometimes include dreams, but other times does not include dreams. Instead of trying to go from waking to deep sleep, have you considered trying to go from sleep into dream? I think that transition is a lot easier. To go from waking mind to deep sleeping mind is a big jump, because that's going from 100 to 0. But if you can guide your mind into a kind of dreamlike state, that's a lot easier than trying to guide it to a kind of stillness from the movement of the day. Something that I like to do is I just try to imagine colors and forms, sounds and shapes that don't necessarily have anything to do with the things that I did that day or the things that I'm going to do tomorrow. Like I'll imagine a garden, or the classic sheeps jumping over a fence. Maybe you imagine planets, moving through space. Maybe you imagine some animals in the jungle. Maybe you imagine... I like to imagine myself as an arrow flying through the world. Kind of enter a dreamlike frame of reference where you're not intellectualizing, you're not analyzing, but producing an experience of imagination. That can definitely deepen you from worldly awareness to something much more deeper. And as you go from there, I think you naturally start to fall asleep gradually. Radhe, dear faithful being, you just like to say it's your birthday today. Yay! You survived another trip around our local star that we call the sun. Congratulations. This is wonderful, and I am very honored that you shared a piece of your birthday here. Thank you for that. It is an honor, it is a blessing to share a piece of this sacred day for you. The world has been blessed as you have been in it, adding to it. Yeah, you made a lot of mistakes, we all have. But that's okay, because you're continuing to wake up each day and understand another part of yourself and the world and how those two things fit together, and you're doing the best you can. And you know this deep down. That is a wonderful thing. And I wish you many more birthdays. I'm always happy to know of people's birthdays. It's a very special day. You're trying to maximize your mistakes, you think? Well, you must be learning a lot then. Birthdays are funny. It's a shorthand for birthday of the year. Because it's on this day of the year that you were born. This isn't the day you were born. This is the day of the year that you were born, since the year cycles. And that means that we can have other birthdays. We can have birth days of the week. If you were born on a Wednesday, then every Wednesday you can say, this is my birthday of the week. Celebrate yourself for surviving another week. You can have a birthday of the month for surviving another trip of the moon around our Earth every 28 days. I survived another lunar cycle here. The many cycles that we can celebrate. So why stop at birthdays of the year? In fact, you can have a birth time of the day. For me, it's 8:08 in the morning. At 8:08 in the morning every day, I can go woohoo. And 8 minutes is the birth minute. But you can have a birth second. You can have a birth... Oh, wait a second. If you keep refining the cycle of time that you're keeping track of, then the rate at which you have these birth times, a reflection of your existence here, becomes more frequent and frequent. And if you look at just the birth instant of time that happens every single moment, then we can celebrate your existence in every moment. This moment. And faithful being, you share, your mom says it's her birthday month, so treat her well. I like that. Yeah. Welcome, dear Gio. Much love. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your your rose and finger heart too. Yippee! Hello, dear Bobby Built It. You were born on a Friday night. Good day to be born. Thank you, dear James, for your subscription. Om Kham Jahnavya Namaha. That's so sweet, dear Rahina. You want to celebrate my birthday every day because you're so happy to know me. That is one of the sweetest sentiments that I could hear. I'll tell you something about my childhood that you may or may not already know. I thought happy birthday just meant I love you. So I would go up to everyone and I'd say, happy birthday. And my parents would have to explain to them that he doesn't know your birthday, he just thinks it means I love you. And so they'd say happy birthday back to me. So there was a time in my life in which it was everyone's birthday in my mind. And as such, it was my birthday too. So in that sense, we can celebrate everyone's birthday every day. Yes, dear Wendy, I see your messages. How can we help? Stage 4. Wayne. Well, I recognize. Give him hope that there is a bit of a trepidation. And it comes across as a very real call for help. I may not know the exact content as to your struggles, but I know that no matter what you are going through in life and the people in your life, Wayne, that your life is precious. And it is true that we all get different times allotted here, but all of them equal in potential to love and be loved. I can certainly extend my prayers to everyone who is going through medical problems, health concerns, like your brother, dear Wendy. This body and mind doesn't have the capacity to perform miracles, but the divine does. And sometimes miracles do happen. Other times it is a grace in disguise. Sometimes souls are being called to fulfill a role at another part in the universe, but all we can do is pray for the most wholesome moment that we can with them during this time. and that all healing that is possible, we are open to it. We live in a universe where anything is possible. And if we keep our hearts open to that possibility, then no uncertainty can drown our spirits. We create that space in our heart to receive grace. We free ourselves of judgment, of fear. Fear prevents us from being receptive to that grace. We have to put trust in the universe that the unfolding of the moment is just according to a divine play that we all are part of. And our part is to be supportive, to be loving, to hold space for the pain that others are going through, to help carry it ourselves without burdening our own ability to do so in the long run. Ultimately, we cannot create the outcome, but we can choose our actions. Let us choose our actions in such a way that leads to the most peace. Let us continue to forgive ourselves, to go easy on our faults and limitations. Believe that we have the power to provide a place of love, of meaning and purpose to everyone, no matter what part of their life they are in. Deborah, you would like for me to define grace. That's a tricky word to define. In fact, it would be easier to define what grace isn't. Grace isn't something that we could ever put a definition on, because the moment you do that, there's always going to be some exception. Grace is exceptional by nature. It is the part of life that we do not expect, which evades logical understanding, what makes miracles possible. Grace is what fills us in moments of wonder, when we suspend our disbelief. It's what fills this vessel of our heart when we empty it through the practice of humility and surrender. Grace is what faith bestows. It is what comes when we're willing to believe in something greater than ourselves, to be part of a whole that transcends our limited experience. But in order to find that grace, which is always showering down, there are 5 things we have to do. And it's a metaphor of 5 different buckets of water. Imagine there is clear, beautiful rain showering down, And we want to collect that rain. The first thing we need to make sure is that our bucket isn't upside down. It sounds silly, but if we hold our cup like this, we're not going to catch any rain. This symbolizes that we're not open to it, that we're not looking up, receptive to what's above. The first thing we need to do is flip our cup, our bucket of water. Make sure that it's facing up. The second thing we need to make sure is that the cup or jar is not cracked. Because no matter how much rain you can catch, if there's a crack, it'll all leak out before you take a sip. This symbolizes that your attention is elsewhere, that you are genuinely receptive in many ways, but it keeps escaping you because you cannot retain that grace. As soon as you are filled with grace, you empty yourself of it because your mind wanders to other things. It reverts back to negative thinking. So we need to make sure that our cup has no leaks in it, no cracks. Completely receptive with full attention. The third thing we want to make sure is that our cup is clean. Because suppose your cup is dirty, you can now successfully catch all the rain that you want. But the moment you drink from it, you spit it back out because you feel like there's something wrong with the rain, that it comes with something that you didn't ask for. But actually, it wasn't in the rain, it was in the cup. The cup needs to be cleaned. This metaphor is in purifying our minds with the right actions, the right thoughts. Because if our mind is not yet pure, then we make the grace impure. And then we think there's something wrong with the grace, that it's come with expectations. But we're the ones that added the expectations. And the fourth thing you need to do is make sure your cup's empty. It sounds funny. But if there's already something else in the cup filling it, then you're not going to be able to catch any rain. If you've got it full of wine, then you're not going to catch the rain. To empty the cup means to completely drain your mind of all preconceptions, that you don't feel like you are already in possession of that grace, or what you think is grace. Always be open to it. And the fifth thing, I don't think there was a fifth thing. Now that I've gone through all four, those are the main four. You have to make sure that your cup is upright, that there are no cracks, that it's clean and empty. If you follow these 4 things, as long as it is raining, you will absolutely catch the rain. In the same way, if you keep an open mind without diverting your attention, purify it, and empty yourself of preconceptions, then wherever you go, just like rain covers a whole territory, you will find grace. Keep your head out of the way. I like that, Sarah. That can be the 5th thing. Yeah. Is it filling up yet? Meanwhile, all the rain's bouncing off your head. It's not filling up. And metaphorically, that example would equate to not always being so analytical. Am I receiving grace yet? Am I not? Is it happening yet? As long as you put your head over it, then you're blocking more grace from coming. I like that. But much love, dear Wendy. Thank you, Stephanie, for your rose, heart me, and team bracelet. Om Shring Mahalakshmyai Namaha. And dear Hybrid Jen, thank you for your love painting. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. This is an important 5th step. Yeah. I'm really grateful that I misspoke and that I had the wisdom of dear Sarah to use that mistake as a happy accident that provided grace. Thank you, brave Bella, for your trio of roses too. Om Hring Devaye Namaha. Is that right? Is the dative form of Deva Devaye? Let me get that right so I make sure I give you the right mantra. ChatGPT is really good for the grammatical cases of Sanskrit. It is Devaye. Good. Om Hring Devaye Namaha. That's right, Lando. For Deva, it is Devaya. For Devi, it is Devaye. Now, I have a question of the day for all of you. If you're interested in exploring it together. I am wondering, what techniques can be used to make peace with an outcome before it happens? That's if it happens at all, by the way. You can make peace with an outcome that may not happen at all, and that's still important. Breath. I love that, Wendy. You said it yourself. Breath is a wonderful technique indeed. Our breath is so symbolic Whether we consciously realize or not, our inhale is the acceptance of a new experience, and our exhale is the release of an old experience. Remember to breathe. Maid Jartai Handa. Hello. Thank you for your team bracelet and heart me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Breathwork is key. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Raj. Riri, you share whatever happens, you will be in the same present moment you are right now. It's true. What's that Dr. Seuss book? Wherever you go, there you are. Good words, dear Wendy. Love, light, here, now. High vibration words. Lando, you share, you remember the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's words, I'm entitled to no fruits, more the sweet when they come. Always sweeter when it comes as a surprise. Dear Sarah, if that's how I pronounce your name. Or Sarah's era, is that it? Sarah's era. It's your era, Sarah. Thank you for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! Faithful being, you share, this is just giving me a new story to tell the grandkids. I love that, right? A new story to traumatize the grandkids. Some grandparents are like that. That reminds me of the time when proceeds to tell the most horrific tale that's ever been told. And then the parents come, okay, Grandma, it's time for your dinner. Time to get the kids home. Tattvamasi, you share, make it into a gameplay or know that there's learning in everything. I like that. Yeah. Not to invalidate the reality of suffering, but gamification is a very powerful technique because there's a lot of metaphors we can draw from the games we play. You know, this is just another level that I'm unlocking. And I'm gaining experience points from my skill tree. I am figuring out a new strategy. Let go and let God. I like that, Ragnhildr. And thank you, Lando, for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! Dear Wendy, you share, we have more than enough. We are better than some. It can be really sobering to remember that there are many things in our life that we can be grateful for, even during challenging times. And not even those moments of gratitude may be something that everyone has. What if we are all one? I like that idea, Wendy. Yeah, I know what you mean, Deborah. You can make peace by shutting ourselves up sometimes. Yeah. If we can get that yapper that's up here to just quit yapping. the letter A. I feel like you've asked this before, but what is my religion? I'll happily answer again. My religion is my humanity, and in our humanity we find all religions. But the first thing I look for in another person is that we share humanity. Thus, humanity is who I serve, what I believe in. Even though it's hard to keep faith in each other, I believe the divine that's spoken of in various ways in many different religions is the same potential that's capable of healing and helping the world through all of us. So I believe in that possibility within you, within me. And faithful being, you share on a real note, you'd say, whatever happens was meant to be. Hello, dear Macy Gypsy. You share cry. Yeah, crying is a good way to express yourself, externalize those emotions, make it rain. How are you doing, dear Macy? Dear brave Bella, you share it's probably not healthy, but you go in expecting the worst so that you're usually pleasantly surprised. I know what you mean. Yeah, I think it's more of a figure of speech. We're not actually expecting the worst per se, as much as we are having no expectations, and therefore, rather than anticipating something negative, we are open for something besides the positive. We recognize that as a possibility. And thank you, dear Sarah Lynn, for your pair of finger hearts. Hare Krishna. I like the way you described that, Lando. Yeah, the issue is somehow along the way our mind thought it was boss of us and we let it. I know. That's how pure our consciousness is. At some point the mind said, I'm the boss. And our true self said, okay. The trick is in getting the mind to surrender. For the mind to go, to realize that it's a terrible boss. It's like the consciousness knew that the mind would eventually give up. So it lets it learn its lesson the hard way. Hello, Be Radical. There are a lot of Sarahs here. Yeah, I'm delighted to have a sea of Sarahs. It really is the era of Sarahs at this moment. And hello, Holly. Thank you, Sarah Lynn, for your tiny and heart me. Yahoo! Dear Grand 11, thank you for your rose too. Aing Saraswatyai Namaha. Wendy, you had asked, what is the oldest religion on earth? Well, in the context of what we were saying earlier, our humanity is our shared wonder in the mystery of existence. If you're looking for a scholarly answer, ancient Sumerian religion is pretty old. Vedic religion is super old. Dravidian religion, South India. It's believed to be but even before the Vedas, which are some of the earliest revelations. The ancient Judaic religion is super, super old too. The earliest parts of the Old Testament are pretty dang old. And there's absolutely value in connecting with our ancestors, with the ancients. But there's also a lot of value in the evolution of religion too. There's a lot of really recent religions, and one of the benefits of having a more recent religion can be the fact that its values may accommodate modern times a little more easily. I truly believe that ancient truth can also speak all the way for us in the present, but to have a more modern vocabulary, storytelling structure can really be helpful for that too. Benefits for both the new and the old, just in different ways. Hello, user 594. Oh, I'm happy you find the question beautiful. Good night, dear Sarah Zara. Hybrid Jen, you had an answer to the question of the day called Math's 42 Universal Laws. You'll have to share one of them. I haven't heard of them. I would love to know. It's crazy how long we've been thinking about these things, shares Lando. I know, right? When you can really get a hint of the wonder of ancient seers and sages whose words and voices have been immortalized through various traditions, it feels like one of the deepest parts of your own self calling out from time immemorial. It's a lot like the 10 Commandments, shares Hybrid Gen. Just 42 of them. They go into more detail. Dear user 594, you share have no expectations on the outcome. That is a wonderful answer. Did dear Macy answer my question? I was wondering how Macy was doing. Yes, you did. You were feeling tense. How am I? I am feeling very relaxed. I'm wondering if I went to the same massage therapist as you yesterday. But we can talk about that off of the live stream. I went to a massage and Reiki practitioner yesterday. It was very nice. I felt inspired by you, Macy. I was thinking of you. Because I know when your body's feeling like that, you take the time to take care of it. I am learning how to do that still. It was really nice. Yeah. Dear Reina, your answer of the day is envision the outcome ideal to you and let it go, and trust God will choose what is right for you. I like that. Dear Wendy, you share your nom has passed, or maybe it was mom, but it was a spelling mistake. Anyway, I imagine someone very close to you, someone you love, has passed away. I think our word choice can be sometimes a red herring, if you know what that means. I don't even know where that comes from, red herring. Someone has to tell me. I don't know if this will resonate with you, but in one part of the Bible, Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." That means if you believe in heaven, then your mother is inside you, inside your heart. So when someone passes away, we're more so referring to their body leaving, but actually there is a leaving and then there is a coming. There is an arrival of their spirit to rest in our heart. And I think many of us know that in practical ways too. When someone in your life departs, doesn't have to be even a death, but a breakup, that you continue to have their laughter in mind. You can see their smile on other people's faces. You remember their likes, dislikes. You feel the things that you've experienced ongoing in your heart. There is a certain continuity of their life, and it continues in less physical ways and more subtle ways, more emotional, more mental, more spiritual. But it's a continuity of the same experience. Lando, you have an answer for red herrings. It's because hunters used to use herring to train dogs to focus on one scent. Like if they could ignore the red herring, that was a good hunting hound. Ah, I see. That makes sense to me. Ah, I like that. I especially like how that adds to the meaning in the following way. That it's not something you're doing to trick the dog. You're not trying to fool the dog. You're actually hoping that the dog uses it as a test to practice giving attention to something else. It empowers the individual to go beyond the red herring. Do you remember that all the way from 8th grade English? You have a great memory. Hybrid Jen Yusha, you found out about the 42 universal laws because you kept seeing 42 everywhere all the time. Well, of course. It is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. The concept of a blue heron. That's a unique idea, Wendy. What was the most special part of my Reiki massage? Asked Sarah. The stillness. Yeah. I know Reiki comes in many different forms, and sometimes there can be a lot of movement with hands and the energy, but for her, I felt that she was so incredibly still for minutes at a time, just absolute stillness, concentrating on various chakras. I appreciated that stillness a lot. Dear Ryan, you've been reading some very dark works of occultism, and I'm wondering, is some knowledge dangerous? Any knowledge that keeps you from expanding into something even higher can be dangerous. Or to rephrase that in a different way, to get caught up in any particular piece of knowledge can be very limiting. Because there is no highest truth, and that's the highest truth. In a paradoxical way. There are uncomfortable truths, but the discomfort should be temporary. It should be a part of a process that continues expanding into something more peaceful. So you can ask yourself, does this understanding lead me to peace? Is there more peace that I could find by expanding my knowledge base even more? Do I feel like there's a part of the puzzle still missing? I think these are good inquiries. If any piece of knowledge gives you anxiety, then there's more to learn. Because the highest truths, in my opinion, are always the ones that lead to the most peace. That's a kind of definition of peace, as something that completes your experience, your understanding. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your 14 fast bursts. I want to do a mantra that starts with H. You could do a mantra for the space of the heart. Om Yam Hridaya Kashaya Namaha. Yeah, I like that question. User 594. Does this understanding lead me to peace? Hello, dear Max. You share your fasting. No food or water all day, then honey and water in the mornings. I wish you well with this austerity. Make sure you keep track of your health. Don't push yourself past the limit of getting benefit, and then you'll have to start healing from too much of something. Follow the middle way, the middle path. Not too much indulgence, not too much austerity. The Yamtra. That's funny, Max. You're very welcome, dear Ryan. I think ultimately there is no dangerous knowledge, but there are dangerous interpretations of knowledge. And the danger comes from not quite being ready to see past any particular interpretation. For instance, I'll give you an example from my personal life. I remember reading a particular Upanishad. I forget the exact Upanishad, as there are many, unfortunately. But the Upanishad was using some very intense vocabulary about how an enlightened person should basically pretend to be crazy and pretend to be blind and be naked and roll around in the dirt. Perhaps not so different from Diogenes, if you know that character. And that terrified me. If I think that's what enlightenment is, I don't know if I want that. But I had read that Upanishad during a time in which I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. And so it wasn't the right time for me to read that. Or it was, because now it has become a lesson that I'm referring to now. And as I became less anxious, as things in my life started to get better, my interpretation of that Upanishad began to change. And then I started interpreting it more metaphorically, and I went, now I see how this teaching is very peaceful. It's not about pretending to be anyone. It's about allowing yourself to be seen as crazy by others. Basically, having self-trust and confidence that if other people look at you like you've lost it, that you are not shaken by that sentiment. And there are other metaphors like being grounded in worldly duties. Even if you feel like you have this divine understanding, that you still get on the ground before someone that needs to be respected, that it doesn't matter how high status you think you are, that you are still able to put yourself in a position of looking up to someone else. Things like that. A metaphor of being blind to the idolization, blind to the illusion of power in materialism, happiness, that sort of thing. So you can see how one interpretation gave me a lot of anxiety, and another interpretation, in fact, dissolved a lot of that anxiety. And it's that interpretation that has stood the test of time for me so far. Thank you, dear Larissa, for your galaxy. That is so kind of you. And we are all like points of light that light up space around us, between us. Each one of us so much bigger than we can possibly comprehend. And yet the space that we have to cross in order for us to reach contact is also vast. We have a long way for our light to go. Lots of darkness to illuminate. Om Ham Jum Sah Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Om Dhyambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshya Mamritat Om Swaha Bhuvaha Bhuh Om Saha Jum Aum Aum. Dear the Only Yes, your answer of the day is after some deep breaths you tell yourself, no matter what, bad stuff happens. There will always be good stuff. Very wise. Good night, dear Holly. All the goodness in me is something that exists in you too. We all share that goodness. It's up to us to manifest our part of it in the world. Hello, blank cover plates. Dear Blue Lily, your thoughts on the term NPC, referencing people? It's a funny term. Do you know what it stands for? You probably do, but in case you don't. Non-player character, yeah. Of course, it comes from video games where you have your player 1. And if you're playing with other people, then there's player 2, player 3, etc. Other players. But then there's all the NPCs, the non-playable characters, like the shopkeepers, the quest givers, pedestrians that make the world feel lively. I think when I look deeply into anyone's eyes, no matter how shallow a person may seem, there is life. Sometimes it's just deeply hidden, maybe repressed. There are certainly a lot of ways in which we're living on autopilot, and we don't have to. A lot of people are really scared because their true self is vulnerable and weird and unique and perhaps has been shamed or traumatized or hurt in some way. And so we add on to all these layers of mechanical living, of unconscious living, because we've been scorned by the world or whatever. And to those people, I still see that light in their eyes. It's just a little twinkle, and it has yet to reemerge into a beautiful form. And I hope to continue to do the best that I can to try to make a world which that light can come out to the surface again. Another answer, dear the only S, to the question of the day is, if it's just expectations, you'll keep thinking, I allow my mind to think of only peaceful beliefs and thoughts. I love that. Yeah. And dear Max, you share agreements and reasoning. A profound 2-word combo, that is, dear Max. And thank you, dear Anna, for your rose as well. Radhe, Radhe. Your answer of the day, dear Billy, is playing What If, but with outcomes. What if it goes the way I wanted to, or better? Yeah, I like that. We're always playing what ifs with all the negative outcomes. What if they don't like me? What if I trip? What if I forget? What if you don't? Yeah. What if they do like you? What if you are received well? What if you find your way? What if you stumble a little bit, but end up catching yourself and standing up even taller? Namaste, dear hip-hopper, non-stopper. That's right, the only yes. I did have a Reiki session yesterday. I had scheduled it a bit of over a week ago when I was having tummy pain that wasn't really going away. I thought, what the heck? I'll try this out. But actually it ended up going away last week. So I feel really healthy this week. It was just a bonus. an added layer of relaxation. The Jared Show, you ask, how do you open the chakras? Each one represents something different. Embodying what each one represents is how you open it. So we could play that game. What does the heart chakra represent? Simply put, even if you don't know the answer, what do you think? And a center in the heart, what would that represent? Love, yeah. So if to embody what it represents is how you open it, then how would you open the heart chakra if it represents love? Love yourself and others. Yeah. As yourself. Beautifully said. Very simple, but very difficult at the same time. Because there's all sorts of interactions between the opening of that center and the opening of adjacent centers too. So to be able to accommodate other aspects of your life as well as love, that is where the challenge lay. You got a stomach ache right now, dear hip hopper. I am sorry to hear that. I don't know what it is about the stomach ache, but for me anyway, it's one of my least favorite experiences. That I've been at my lowest point mentally when my stomach is feeling a certain way. But perhaps that does relate with chakras in some way. You have a stomach ache too, dear Jalen? Tummy ache survivors unite, shares Molly. I love that. Truly. Yeah, I think I saw a meme a few months ago that said, God gave me tummy aches because he knows that if I didn't have tummy aches, I'd be unstoppable. But I do pray that your tummy feels better, dear Jalen, dear hip hopper. Belly breaths, really good for that. That's lovely, the only S. Yusha, you healed your mom yesterday, and it took all of her pain away, made her energetic. That is so wholesome. Doing Reiki on your mom, I love that. That fills my heart with joy. Thank you for your follow, Molly. And for your likes on the live. Your tippy taps. Another thing I wanted to add about chakras is they can always be more opened. Like, if the heart represents love, is there a limit to the extent that you can love? Or is there always more love to give? Alright, I wanted to thank you all for sharing an exploration of that question of the day together. I don't think I've ever had a live stream so far where I didn't like the answer shared. It's, they say some things are hit or miss, but I'm very honored to have an audience that always hits the nail on the head when it comes to these questions of the day. I'm very honored. Nina, are you asking what is an outcome? What the word outcome means? It is a funny word if you think about it. An outcome. It's very sweet of you, the only S. Well, an outcome is a result. Something that comes partially from our actions and partially from the world. And there are fortunate outcomes and unfortunate outcomes. Like a fortunate outcome in an argument would be two people agreeing, finding common ground, understanding. An unfortunate outcome in an argument would be that it ends up getting violent, for example. So the question of the day was about how can we make peace with such outcomes, fortunate or unfortunate, before they happen. Dear Blue Lily, you share the best compliment you've gotten was, you have a very defined and beautiful throat chakra. Oh, that is a wonderful compliment. It is what it is. That's a great phrase, Ray. It is what it's the truth. You can't deny it is what it is. Tattvam Asi, you ask, why open chakras? It is an excellent way of feeling like you're on a path that has very clear steps and signs that these steps are being completed. Ultimately, it's a model, and you can choose to model your spiritual experience in different ways. In Vedanta, they often don't use the model of chakras, but in yoga, it is common. No model by itself is necessary, but the benefit of having very clearly defined steps, a sequence of things that you can do, makes it a very engaging process. You always have something to do in your sadhana. A more theoretical path can sometimes leave you feeling like you don't know what the next thing is. Should I study this scripture again? Should I just continue to meditate? When it's just kind of all up in the air, you might not have a predefined next goal unless you have a model. Like the chakra system, you go, okay, I am very clearly feeling a deficit in my love for others at this moment. Therefore, there are some prescribed practices that I can do to increase my love for others and gauge whether they have an effect. Can they be too open, asks Blue Lily. They can't be too open, but relative to each other, you could have one that's more open than another, and you want balance. If you have one really open crown chakra, but not a very opened root, then you'll be tapped into all of these higher experiences, but no way to ground that experience in something relatable with others, for example. So the fault isn't in having a really open crown in that case. It's having a crown that's just so much more open than the root. You could see how relative to each other, it's good to have balance. Dear Riri, you ask, what would I recommend the third one you focus on? I think you're asking about the third chakra after the Muladhara, the root, the Svadhisthana, the sacral. Then the third is the Manipura, the solar plexus. Let's consult the chakra book. Sorry, it's a lot of terms. This is a great book that we read in completion in these live streams. Now all the parts are on my YouTube channel, Yamsox Lives. Let's crack open the Manipura chakra, the solar plexus. No pun intended. Okay, there's a wonderful chart here. If this is legible, you can hide the chat and take a screenshot. Otherwise, I can send you a picture of this. But there's a table of pretty much everything you need to know about that chakra. For example, its color is yellowish orange, representing fire and energy. Its tattva, its principle, is tejas, fire, representing digestive fire, purification. Its mantra is Ram, Ram. We could keep going. I don't want to overwhelm you though. Maybe what you can do is just pick those 3 things to meditate on. You can bring to mind the feeling of being immersed in a yellow and orange light, representing fire and its ability to purify. And while you do that, you can do the mantra Ram. The sound Ram, that initial semi-vowel, R, the rolled R, it relates to the fire principle in speech. Sanskrit is a language in which every place of articulation in the mouth corresponds to an element. So just by practicing sound which is articulated from the region of the mouth that corresponds to fire, you are directly interfacing with what that chakra represents. And that articulation is called retroflex, where you curl your tongue back. I don't think there's a single sound in English where you curl your tongue back, so it might be very different for many English speakers. But if you continue practicing it, you'll certainly get better at it. Ram. It's one of my favorite mantras. Thank you, dear Ray, for the fest crown that you had sent. Jai Sita Rama. Good night, dear Anna. You're holding yours in your hands, dear Riri. That's a great thing to do. Yeah. Holding your hands over any region of the body can signal in relaxation. That's right, the only S. To roll your R's, you roll your tongue back. Yeah. Perhaps that's why they call it rolling your R's. But you have to roll your tongue back in what's called retroflex position. You flex your tongue retro back. It might be a bit awkward to show you, but if I open my mouth here, you can see the tongue moving back. So that the bottom of your tongue is facing up to the hard palate, just behind your teeth. Arr. Can you roll your R's with the mouth so open? I've never tried before. Arr. Arr. It's much more difficult, but I guess you can a little bit. Arr. Oh, you're holding yours in your hand. The book, Riri. I see. That works too. That's a good way of describing the hard palate. The bumpy part. Mm-hmm. That's me purring, that's right. That's cool, your connections with the chakra system and Reiki, dear Mintaka. Hello, dear Marcy. Please buy Bitcoin, Sebastian. And why is that? I already have a Bitcoin. Where did I put it? It's right next to me. So yeah, I've got a Bitcoin right here. One whole Bitcoin. Let's see, what's inside? Oh, no, sorry. Wasn't a Bitcoin. It was a Bytecoin. That's right, Dutch Mamasi. Well, talk about a sweet return of investment. That's good. Thank you, dear Anne, for the rose you had sent. Okay. Perhaps it's a good time to wrap things up before I start eating other things that I probably shouldn't. Now, we have been live for a good few hours so far. Thank you for taking place at the same time, same moment as I in this space. Om Shanti. Hello, Miss Bliss. That's funny, right, Angel? Do I ever worry about 404? Page not found at the end of my life. Wait for it. This is a joke that is going to require work for you. Yeah. I don't worry so much about a 404 as long as I keep in mind a 218. That will always be the case, that 218. You're gonna have to look up hypertext transfer protocol error codes to get that joke. I love a joke that requires effort on your end. Was that actually Hanukkah Gelt or Gelt? I'm not familiar with that, dear Billy. But no, the coin I just ate was from White Spot, a restaurant chain near my house. Yeah, some of you have already figured out the error code 218. Anyway, I would like to transition now from our manana to our nididhyasana. We have landed in the final part of our Saṅgha, dedicated to nididhyasana, integrating our experiences thus far. Thank you, the only yes. Good night, Marcy. Good night, Deborah. Well, I'm not going yet, but if you're going, good night. Much like yesterday, I wanted to end with a mantra meditation. And you are more than welcome to participate in this mantra, this meditation session together. You've never used a 218 ever, shares Tatvamasi. Well, theoretically, you should never have to. It's the error code that says, no error. Everything is fine. Very funny, right, Angel? I wanted to meditate on another mantra tonight. Allow me to bring to screen the table of seed sounds from which this mantra is based today. In an ancient scripture that was probably an oral tradition for generations prior, there was a text called the Kamikagama. In, I believe, the 2nd chapter, we have this list of sounds being shared by Shiva, a form of Shiva. And these sounds form the basis for mantra creation. Today, I wanted to do the mantra based on the seed syllable of a long ah sound, ah, which is said to be visualized as a pure white sound, Shveta, and has the presiding deity of Parashakti, which means supreme power or energy. It has the power to induce attraction, called akarshana. But we'll be focusing on the deity, Parashakti, which is said to be the highest form of the divine feminine as supreme power. This is the power that sustains the whole universe, that creates the whole universe, and destroys the whole universe. So, to make it a mantra, we always start with Om, the cosmic syllable. Then we take that seed, Ah, and we nasalize it too. That's our bija, our seed. We'll end with the dative form of Parashakti, which is Parashaktaye, which means to Parashakti. And before that we'll put the word Namah, which means salutations. Interestingly, there's a very rare interaction of sound that I've put here as a note. That visarga, that H with a dot under it, you see, an expulsion of breath, when it appears before a P, it becomes the sound F, or like the sound F, but with your lips more pursed, like just before you make a P sound. It's a very rare sound and a sacred sound that has its own name in Sanskrit called the Upadmaniya. It's a sound that even if you study Sanskrit, you might not even know it exists. So in the rare case that a word like Namah appears before a word like Parashaktaye, then it becomes Namah Parashaktaye, Namah Parashaktaye. I've added some other notes like O's, that long A with a bar over it, and an E are all long. M with a dot under it is a pure nasalized sound. And because Sanskrit has a bunch of different kinds of sibilants, we have a distinguishing of this S with that accent over it is the SH sound in English, but there are other sounds that are like SH. This one is the ordinary SH sound. Shh. Altogether it should sound like Om Namah Parashaktaye, which means something like I invoke the essence of the whole universe, specifically or especially the essence of the divine feminine in her ultimate form. Salutations to she, Parashakti, supreme power. We'll do it 108 times using a mala, and if you have a mala you can follow along. Otherwise, this mala will count for us all 108. We'll start as always with the Guru bead telling us where to start and when to stop. And you can follow along at your own speed or just listen. We'll begin. I'll start slow and speed up as we proceed. Om Namah Parashaktaye. 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 Om Parashaktaye. Om Namah 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 Parashaktaye. Parashakdaye. Om Namah 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 Parashakdaye Namaha. Om Namah Parashakdaye. 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 Shakdaye. Aum Namah Shakdaye. Aum Namah Shakdaye. Aum Namah Shakdaye. Salutations to the Divine Feminine in her most powerful form, a supreme energy, supreme power herself. Namaste. Thank you to everyone who meditated or listened along with me. May you receive the benefits of my chanting, especially if you were unable to chant or chose not to, or joined late. If you consent, I would love to relay the benefit onto you, so no one is left out. Namaste. This brings us to the end of our Saṅgha. Thank you all for being here. Oh, I'm glad it helped, dear Anna. Thank you for the reminder to drink water. Yes, very good. Dear Oracle, thank you for the heart me you sent while we were meditating. Thank you for your patience. Om Namah Karlim Ambita Me Shorin Nadita Me Harim Devita Me Ang Saraswatyai Namaha. Dear Miss Bliss, thank you for your heart me too. Om Sadhyo Jatam Prapadyami Sadhyo Jataya Vai Namo Namaha. Bhave Bhave Nadi Bhave Bhavasvamang Bhavod Bhavaya Namaha. And thank you, dear Anne, for your heart me too. Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Tanno Rudra Prachodayat. Always mixing up the variations of the Gayatri mantra. There are many of them. You like my purple jar, shares Orla. Yeah, this is fun. Nice mason jar with all these different kinds of embellishes. It looks very magical, doesn't it? The way it's catching the light right now is very beautiful. Oh, wow. You have a great eye, dear Orla. I'm glad you liked the mantra. You're very welcome, the only S. You tried, and that's what counts. That's right, dear Mirna. The word Parashaktaye, after the F sound, is the hardest. Takes all the rest of the breath out, right? You gotta reserve a little bit inside. Namaste, dear Kimiya. Visual ASMR, that's a great word for it, dear Orla. I'm happy to hear that, dear Larissa. You got 107, dear Riri? Well, quick. We have to do one more together. Om Namah Parashaktaye. Yeah, Sanskrit definitely requires some breath control, some pranayama, that's for sure. Dear G to Infinity, what you're wondering where I get the thumbnails for the recordings. The pics are so pretty. Well, that's one part of Mata G that still remains. They are generated with the help of computational intelligence. I think it adds to the different kinds of the diversity in thumbnails, since I know that having a channel just dedicated to uploading all of the archives of our live streams and meditations, it can get kind of boring seeing basically the same picture come up every day. So to give it variation, I generate a unique image for each of the videos. And if you ever want one of the images, I have them all saved in full HD, and I can send them to you. Sometimes I look at the images afterwards because I think, wow, that's just a beautiful image in general. And I'm staring at it for a while. If any of you want to do the same, please let me know. You shared that there is a mislabeling, as the 30th recording is labeled as the 23rd. That makes sense. I reused the details from last week and forgot to jump it up 7 days ahead. Thank you for letting me know. But yeah, all of these lives and the meditations and the readings and the show and tells, they're all on my YouTube channel, Yamsox Live. So do check that out if you're worried if any of these things are lost to time, or if you want to join and you're but you're unavailable due to the timing of the circumstances in your life and my life. Or if you want to get caught up on the reading, thank you, dear G to Infinity. Thanks to all my lovely moderators, such as yourself, for helping keep the peace. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for holding me accountable for any of the ways in which I can continue to make this space more inclusive to you and others next time. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to the light, from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. I do play games, the only S, but I haven't in a while. Video games. The most recent exception was teaching Sky Guardian G the basics of Minecraft, how to use the inventory and the crafting system, etc. Thank you, Gabriella, for your heart me as we end our Saṅgha today. Om Pram Hanumate Namaha. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Maybe we can do a Minecraft live stream sometime. That'd be fun. Just something out of the ordinary. Something recreational. We'll talk about it next time. All right. Namaste.